Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to class, undergrads. Today, we are completely mastering vectors through this explainer. Whether you're heading into mechanics, fluid dynamics, or electromagnetism, vectors are the absolute foundational language for literally everything you're going to do in physics and engineering. If you don't speak the language, you can't read the book, so let's get fluent.
Here is our syllabus for today's masterclass. We are going to kick things off with vector mechanics, build our mathematical grid, tackle vector math and operations, explore some real-world physics applications, and then finish up by looking beyond at vector fields.
All right, section 1, welcome to vector mechanics. Let's start with the absolute basics, because if you don't grasp this initial distinction, I promise you the rest of the semester is going to be practically impossible. Just one single piece of additional information completely changes how we do the math here. A scalar just tells you how much. It's got magnitude only. Think of a temperature, like 25 degrees Celsius, or a mass of 5 kilograms. But a vector? A vector gives you the complete picture by adding a very specific direction. If someone says a car is moving at 60 kilometers per hour, well, that's just a scalar speed. But if they say it's moving 60 kilometers per hour toward the north, boom, suddenly you have a vector.
And this right here is exactly where people trip up on exams. Speed is a scalar, but velocity is a vector. Mass measures your matter, but weight is the actual downward vector force of gravity acting on that mass. My absolute favorite example to use here is distance versus displacement. Imagine you walk 40 meters east, and then you immediately turn around and walk 40 meters west. Your scalar distance traveled is 80 meters, but your vector displacement? It's exactly 0, because you ended up right back exactly where you started.
Moving right along to section 2, the mathematical grid. So now that we know what vectors actually are, we need a standard coordinate system to map them out in three-dimensional space. The crucial question is, how do we describe direction in an equation without completely messing up the actual numerical values? Well, we use unit vectors. A unit vector has a magnitude of exactly 1. And since multiplying by 1 changes absolutely nothing mathematically, these little vectors, which you'll often see represented by I, J, and K with those little hat symbols on top, they serve only as directional signposts. They are the pure mathematical blueprint for 3D space. Any 3D vector can be expressed as a combination of its x, y, and z components right alongside those I, J, and K unit vectors. Now, why does this matter so much for your midterms? Because by breaking a complex diagonal vector down into these independent straight line components, you make your calculations significantly easier. Want to know the total magnitude? You just applied the 3D Pythagorean theorem and you're good to go. Okay, section 3, vector math and operations. Let's crack open our toolkit and look at how we actually combine these arrows. Because let's face it, in physical reality, multiple forces are almost always acting at exactly the same time. If you are adding vectors graphically, say you're sketching out a free body diagram on a test, simply follow this 3-step head-to-tail method. You draw the first arrow, slap the tail of the second arrow right onto the head of the first, and then draw your final resultant vector straight from your very first starting point to your final ending point. It perfectly visualizes combined forces. But what about multiplication? Well, this is where it gets incredibly fascinating. Vectors actually have 2 totally different ways to multiply. The first is the dot product, also known as the scalar product. You input 2 vectors, but you output a scalar, meaning just a regular number. It essentially measures how much one vector acts in the exact direction of another. Think about calculating mechanical work for a second. If you push a heavy box with a force of 40 newtons over 5 meters in the exact same direction, you get a clean 200 joules of work. You should absolutely memorize these special cases for the dot product. Pay special attention to the 90-degree scenario. If you apply a force perfectly perpendicular to the direction of motion, the dot product is exactly 0. You do 0 mechanical work. You could push completely sideways on a moving train all day long, sweat literally pouring down your face, and physically speaking, you have done 0 work on that train's forward motion. Crazy, right? Let's move to the second type of multiplication and see how this builds. The cross product. In stark contrast to the dot product, the cross product combines 2 vectors and creates a brand new third vector that is entirely perpendicular to the first 2. Its magnitude is equal to the area of the parallelogram formed by the 2 original vectors, and please highlight this next part in your notes. It is not commutative. In regular math, 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2, but in vector math, A cross B gives you the exact opposite direction of B cross A. Order completely matters here. So how on earth do you figure out the physical direction of that new vector in 3D space? You absolutely must apply the right-hand rule. Take your actual right hand, point your fingers in the direction of the first vector, curl them towards the second vector. Now stick your thumb out like you're hitchhiking. Your thumb is pointing in the exact direction of your new cross-product vector. Master this technique now, guys, because it is a critical, everyday tool for your upcoming electromagnetism classes.
Section 4. Real-world physics applications.
It is officially time to take our mathematical toolkit out of the abstract and apply it to two classic problems you will absolutely without a doubt see on your midterms. First up, the infamous inclined plane. When a block sits on a tilted surface, gravity pulls straight down towards the center of the Earth, but analyzing it like that is a total nightmare. Instead, we resolve that downward weight vector into two components, one perpendicular to the ramp, pushing the block into the surface, and one parallel to the ramp, trying to slide it down. Why do we do this? Because motion along one direction is entirely independent of the other. It takes a really complex angled problem and turns it into simple, straight-line math.
Now, let me pose a quick question to you all. If you aim a boat's nose straight across a flowing river and your engine pushes you perfectly straight, why do you inevitably end up landing way downstream on the other side? The answer here is relative velocity. Your actual path is the vector addition of the boat's forward velocity and the river's sideways current. But here is the brilliant, kind of mind-bending takeaway you really need to grasp. The river's flow does not change how long it takes you to cross. Because perpendicular components of motion are completely independent, that downstream current only changes where you land, not the time it takes your forward vector to actually cross the water. Finally, Section 5, Beyond Vector Fields. To wrap up today's explainer, let's zoom out a bit and look at the horizon of your undergraduate physics career. So far, we've treated vectors like single arrows, just glued to a specific block or a boat. But very soon, you won't just be studying single objects. You're going to study vector fields. A vector field assigns a vector to literally every single point in a region of space. Imagine a room filled with infinite tiny arrows, showing the exact speed and direction of the wind at every single millimeter. That is a vector field, and it forms the mathematical foundation for fluid dynamics, Maxwell's electromagnetism, and even general relativity. Before I officially dismiss you, take a very close look at these common exam pitfalls. Please do not mix up speed and velocity. Do not try to add vectors using normal arithmetic. I promise you 5 plus 5 does not equal 10 if the vectors are pointing in different directions. Never mix up your dot and cross products. And please make absolutely sure you are actually using your right hand for the right hand rule during your exam. You would honestly be shocked by how many students frantically use their left hand while holding their pencil in their right.
I'll leave you with this final thought. Since vector fields govern the entire physical universe, what invisible vector fields are you moving through right at this very second? Just think about the Earth's gravity pulling you down in your seat, the Wi-Fi signals passing right through the walls around you, the magnetic field shielding our planet from space. You are constantly interacting with an invisible, incredibly complex mathematical grid of vectors. Keep that in mind as you leave class today. See you next time.